caught up in like all the aesthetics of it, the
Yeah.
pretty kitchen and the curb appeal and all that.
Absolutely.
But what really savvy people, buyers and sellers and investors understand is that the market itself, the conditions of the market are really, really vital to success in real estate.
That's right. I think, they say location, 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 right?
Yeah.
But timing is really, really important as well.
Right.
And understanding the conditions of the market are so important when you're making those decisions to buy and sell.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to equip you with today on this deep dive.
That's right.
A little bit of an understanding of how to look beyond just the individual properties.
Yeah.
To be able to grasp that bigger picture.
The bigger picture, yeah.
Because, having that knowledge is really what empowers you to make those smart decisions with confidence. So think of this as your shortcut to becoming a more informed real estate, participant, I guess.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack some key concepts that might seem a little bit complex at first, but we're going to break them down.
Yeah.
In a way that hopefully is clear and actionable for you. So, we'll be talking about the cyclical nature of the market. What does it mean when people say buyer's market versus seller's market? How to actually interpret the data and identify those trends that are meaningful.
Right.
The powerful role that interest rates play.
Yeah.
And some practical insights into, when might be a good time for you to make a move in real estate.
Absolutely.
The goal is to cut through all the noise and give you the essential knowledge that you need without overwhelming you.
Exactly. And, you can spend hours and hours looking at all this information that's out there and trying to understand it, but we want to just distill it to the most important things so you can go in and have a better understanding of what's really going on in the real estate market.
So let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
To our first core concept, market cycles. So the real estate market isn't static, right? It's constantly shifting. It moves in cycles, kind of similar to how you think about the stock market.
Yeah, it does. And, you see the stock market go up and down, and real estate is no different. Definitely has cycles that we go through.
Yeah, and these cycles are fundamentally driven by supply and demand, but they're also significantly affected by things like interest rates and the overall health of the economy.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, those really drive the market,
right?
As well as obviously how many houses are on the market at any given time.
Yeah,
and what the demand is from buyers.
So the two primary phases that we talk about, when we talk about market cycles are these buyers markets and sellers markets.
Exactly. And, knowing where we are in that cycle is so key to making the right decision.
So let's start by focusing on a buyer's market. Okay.
What are the defining characteristics of this type of market for someone who's looking to buy a property?
So in a buyer's market, the defining feature really is there's more homes available for sale than there are buyers actively looking to purchase those homes. So you have an abundance of inventory, which means you have fewer buyers, which gives a lot of power to the buyers.
Right.
It shifts the power dynamic in favor of the buyer because they can go in and really,
they have options.
They have options. They have choices. They can negotiate. They can take their time.
It often translates to, downward pressure on prices too, right?
Absolutely, because you have sellers that are competing for a smaller pool of buyers.
Right.
So they're more incentivized to lower their prices.
And they're, maybe more willing to deal on closing costs or even, pay for some repairs or something like that.
Absolutely.
Opportunities that you wouldn't see in a hotter market.
So as a buyer, you really find yourself in the stronger position because you have more options available and sellers are more likely to make concessions.
Exactly. You'll see, if you're looking at properties online, you'll see the properties might stay on the market for a longer period of time.
Right.
And that's a good indication that you're in a buyer's market. This longer days on market really creates an incentive for sellers to reduce those asking prices. Yeah. And it's a particularly favorable time for first-time buyers or investors that are just looking for value.
Right.
Because there's less competition.
Yeah. Okay, so more homes on the market, fewer buyers competing for them leads to better deals for those who are looking to buy.
Exactly.
Now let's flip that around and talk about a seller's market.
Right.
What are the key characteristics there?
So in a seller's market, it's the opposite. You have more buyers that are actively looking to purchase properties than there are homes available.
Right.
So you have this scarcity.
Yeah, and that's when we often hear about, prices rising sometimes very quickly and bidding wars become very common.
Exactly, because the demand outstrips the supply. Sellers have the advantage here.
Right.
So, they can dictate the terms a little bit more. And so, they might get multiple offers.
Right.
It's not uncommon for properties to sell very quickly,
Right.
sometimes even over asking price.
Yeah.
And so, if you're in that type of market, you as a buyer need to be prepared to make a decision very quickly and sometimes forego contingencies
Right.
to make sure you secure that property.
So if you're a buyer in that kind of market, you really need to be agile.
Yeah.
You got to be prepared to act fast and potentially offer the seller more favorable terms
Right.
to kind of stand out from the crowd.
Absolutely. And so, being able to recognize what type of market you're in
Right.
is fundamental to your strategy. Because if you're a buyer and you're in a seller's market, you need to know that there's going to be competition and you need to be prepared to make a decision quickly.
Right.
So have your financing ready to go.
Right.
Be prepared to make an offer, the first day the house is on the market.
Yeah.
And possibly be flexible on certain terms.
Right.
Whereas if you're selling in a buyer's market, it's really important to make sure that your house is priced appropriately
Right.
and that it shows well.
Right.
And things like that.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a grasp on these two primary market types.
Right.
But how do we determine which one we're in now?
Yeah.
And maybe even get a sense of where things might be going.
Right.
So that leads us to our next topic, analyzing market trends.
Absolutely. So understanding the cycle gives you kind of a snapshot of where we are.
Yeah.
But you really need to know where we're headed
Right.
to be able to make these really informed decisions. And there are a few things that you as an informed listener can monitor to get a feel for where the market is going.
Okay, let's hear them. What are some of those signals?
So one of the most direct indicators is inventory levels.
Mm-hmm.
So how many homes are for sale?
Okay.
In your area, and we talked about it earlier, a high volume of unsold homes,
Yeah.
that stay in the market.
Yeah.
That's generally a sign that it's a buyer's market.
Yeah.
Whereas low inventory, where properties are selling quickly,
Right.
that's, usually indicative of a seller's market.
Right.
So a lot of times you can find data on active listings,
Right.
through real estate websites, through reports,
Right.
Local market reports.
Yeah, that makes sense. A large supply gives buyers more choice.
Yeah.
And it kind of reduces that sense of urgency.
Exactly.
What's another indicator that we should be watching?
So another important metric to track is days on market. And this is abbreviated DOM.
Okay.
You'll see it online a lot of times. And it refers to the average number of days a property sits on the market before it sells.
Okay.
So if you see homes staying on the market for longer periods, that suggests that buyers have more power.
Right.
Conversely, if properties are selling very quickly,
Right.
it's a sign of a seller's market.
Yeah.
And there's no real, set number of days that dictates,
Yeah.
where the market is.
Yeah.
But, if it's above average,
Right.
that could signal a cooling market or even an issue with a specific property.
Okay.
Maybe it's overpriced.
Right.
Or something along those lines.
So DOM is kind of like a gauge of how quickly
Yeah,
the market is moving.
exactly. It's the velocity of the market.
Longer times are good for buyers. Shorter times are better for sellers.
Exactly.
Got it.
Okay. What else?
Home price trends, of course, are really important
Right.
to look at.
Yeah.
So, are prices going up consistently in your area? That generally signals a strong seller's market.
Right.
If you see prices start to decline or even stagnate.
That could be a sign of a shift towards a buyer's market.
Okay.
So again, you can find this information on real estate websites,
Right.
local market reports,
Right.
things like that.
So we're looking at the number of homes that are available, how quickly they're selling, and the direction of price movement.
Exactly.
Now, you talked about, you mentioned earlier that interest rates are a big factor.
Yeah.
So how do we spot those trends and understand their impact on the market?
So mortgage interest rates are really important in the real estate market because they impact affordability so much.
Right.
So lower rates generally mean that it's cheaper to borrow money.
Yeah.
And that usually leads to increased buyer demand because more people can qualify
Right.
for mortgage and they can afford a larger loan.
Right.
So when that happens, prices tend to go up because you have more competition.
Right.
Conversely, when rates rise, the cost of getting a mortgage goes up. And that can really dampen demand. And that might lead to prices stabilizing or even decreasing.
Right.
So monitoring interest rates is really key.
So lower rates can kind of fuel that market
Yeah.
by making it easier for people to buy.
Exactly.
And then higher rates can kind of put the brakes on things.
Yeah. It kind of slows things down a
Yeah.
little bit.
So what about the broader economy?
Yeah.
How does that fit into the picture?
The economy is so important when it comes to real estate
Uh-huh.
because it affects people's confidence in their ability to buy a home.
Right.
So, if the economy is strong and the job market is healthy, people tend to be more confident.
Right.
And they're more likely to make a big purchase like a house.
Right.
If unemployment is low and people feel secure in their jobs,
Right.
they're more likely to buy a house.
Yeah.
Conversely, when you have economic downturns or periods of, high unemployment, people become more cautious.
Right.
And you often see a decrease in home sales.
Right.
And sometimes prices even go down.
So it's not just about the real estate market itself.
Right.
But it's about the bigger picture
Exactly.
of the economy in general.
The overall economic climate.
So where can people actually go to get this kind of information, to stay informed about all these indicators?
So there's a lot of good resources out there.
Yeah.
The NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors,
Uh-huh.
they publish really comprehensive reports on the market.
Okay.
And they do in-depth analysis.
Okay.
A lot of local real estate boards.
Right.
They also have data
Okay.
that's specific to your region.
Right.
And, that includes things like inventory levels, days on market,
Right.
price trends, and things like that.
Okay. What about for more immediate information, like in a specific neighborhood?
Yeah. So if you want to get more granular, look at specific neighborhoods.
Right.
Online platforms like Zillow or Redfin or Realtor.com
Okay.
can be helpful.
Right.
Those sites, they provide data on active listings,
Yeah.
recent sales price histories.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
So you can kind of monitor what's going on in the area you're interested in.
Right.
But you always want to be careful with online data
Right.
because, sometimes it's not always accurate.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
you want to make sure that the source is reliable.
Right. Okay. So we've looked at market cycles and those key indicators that kind of tell us where the market is going.
Yeah.
But let's focus a little bit more closely on one of those factors, interest rates.
Okay.
You shared that example earlier of the $300,000 home.
Yeah.
And the difference that interest rate can make.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit more about just how crucial they are to the whole equation?
Yeah. So, interest rates are the cost of borrowing money to buy a house.
Yeah.
And even small changes in those interest rates
Right.
can have a big impact
Yeah.
on your monthly payment and the total amount of interest that you're going to pay.
Right. And so in that example, with the $300,000 home,
Yeah.
just a 3% difference in the interest rate meant a $600
$600
difference in the monthly payment.
per month.
And that's just from the interest.
Just for the interest.
So over the life of a 30-year loan,
Huge difference.
that's a lot of money.
A ton of money.
Yeah.
And that's why, these changes in rates can have such a dramatic impact on whether or not someone can afford to buy a house
Right.
and the overall demand
Right.
in the market.
So when rates are low, more people can afford to borrow,
Yeah.
leading to that increased demand,
Exactly.
which can push prices up.
Uh-huh.
But when rates rise,
Yeah.
that same house suddenly becomes a lot more expensive each month.
Right.
And potentially unaffordable for some people.
And it's not just about the monthly payment.
Right.
If rates go up, the maximum amount you can borrow goes down.
Right.
So you might have to look at houses in a lower price range.
And this also has, implications for sellers,
Yeah.
right? Because if rates are going up, then the pool of buyers who can afford their asking price might shrink.
Absolutely. And sellers need to be aware of that.
I
Because
get.
a price that might have been competitive a few months ago
Right.
might not be now.
So for anyone who's thinking about buying a home, understanding those interest rate trends is so important.
Yeah, for sure.
And if rates are low, it might be a good idea to lock in a fixed rate mortgage
Yeah, great point.
so you can secure those lower costs for the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. That can save you a lot of money
Yeah.
over the life of the loan.
And it gives you that predictability
Exactly.
in your monthly payments.
Yeah, you know what your payment's going to be for the next 30 years.
But for sellers, being mindful of rising rates and how that might, reduce demand means
Yeah.
they might need to adjust their pricing or
Yeah.
or how they're marketing the property?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered, market cycles, how to analyze the trends,
Uh-huh.
the impact of interest rates.
Yeah.
But now for the big question, I think that everyone wants to know the answer to.
Right.
When is the best time to buy or sell?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's no easy answer.
Right.
It depends so much on your personal situation and the conditions of the market.
Right. So we can't just say, buy in the spring, sell in the fall or anything like that.
Yeah. Not really.
But can we offer some general guidelines that
Yeah.
might be helpful?
Sure. So for buyers, generally speaking,
Yeah.
a buyer's market is going to be a good time to buy.
Okay.
More inventory, less competition, you have more negotiating power.
Right.
And sometimes, the late fall or winter months,
Right.
there might be a little bit less activity,
Right.
which could present some opportunities.
Okay.
And of course, we talked about buying when interest rates are low.
Right.
Can save
Yeah.
you money in the long run.
Right. So less competition, more options, lower borrowing costs.
Yeah,
That creates a pretty good environment for buyers.
for sure.
Now, what about for sellers? When's a good time to put their home on the market?
So for sellers, a seller's market is going to be the best time to sell.
Okay.
Because that's when demand is high, inventory is low.
Right.
You're going to get the most money for your house.
Right.
And the spring and summer months are generally the most active
Okay.
because, families are trying to move
Right.
during, when school's out and things like that.
Right.
And of course, regardless of the market,
Right.
making sure that your house is in good condition
Yeah.
is going to help you get the best price.
Right.
So, if you're thinking about selling,
Mm-hmm.
that's always a good thing to do is get your house in tip-top shape.
So buyers might find a good opportunity when the market cools down a
Yeah.
little bit, and sellers kind of have the upper hand when things are a little hotter. But you mentioned earlier that trying to time the market perfectly is not always a good strategy.
Yeah, we all want to buy at the bottom and sell at the top.
Right.
But trying to do that
Yeah.
can be really difficult. And sometimes it backfires.
Right.
So, real estate, especially for people that are buying a home to live in,
Right.
it's a long-term investment.
Right.
So focusing too much on timing the market can cause you to miss out on some opportunities
Right.
or just create unnecessary stress.
So, if you're buying a home to live in for 5-10 years,
Yeah.
a small difference in price
Right.
is not as important as finding the right place
Absolutely.
that fits your needs.
Yeah. You need to find a place that you love, that you're comfortable in,
Right.
that meets your needs. And,
Right.
and don't worry too much about,
Right.
whether the price is going to go up or down a little bit in the next few months.
Right.
It's more about the long term.
So it's more about making good decisions based on your circumstances. Yeah.
Your finances
Yeah.
and your long-term goals
Exactly.
rather than trying to, outsmart the market or something.
Right.
So to recap, we've taken a deep dive into these cycles.
Yeah.
In real estate, those shifts between buyers and sellers markets.
Mm-hmm.
We've explored how to analyze the data, inventory levels, days on market price trends,
Right.
interest rates, the economy,
Yeah.
and how to use that to kind of get a sense of where the market's going.
Uh-huh.
We talked about how interest rates impact affordability.
Big time.
And we've offered some general guidelines on, when might be a good time to buy or sell, but also cautioned against trying to time things too perfectly.
Exactly.
So by understanding these principles,
Yeah.
you're now armed with a much better understanding
A more informed perspective. Yeah.
of the real estate market.
Yeah. And whether you're thinking about buying your first home,
Right.
or selling your current house, or investing.
This knowledge is going to give you an advantage
Absolutely.
in navigating the market.
Yeah. It's about going beyond the surface
Yeah,
and understanding the underlying forces
Uh-huh.
that shape the market.
for sure.
So here's a final thought for you to consider.
Okay.
Given that real estate is cyclical and how interconnected it is with the economy,
Yeah.
how might understanding those long-term economic trends,
Interesting.
things like demographic shifts or technological advancements or even global events,
Right.
how might understanding those things inform your real estate decisions
Yeah.
in a way that goes beyond just looking at the short-term data?
That's a great question.
It's definitely something worth thinking about.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us
Thanks for having me.
for this deep dive.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.